What if the fairy tale we thought had ended was only the beginning? Imagine walking back into the glamorous, emotional world of Pretty Woman, where love broke all rules and gave us one of the most unforgettable romances in film history. Now, after more than 3 decades, the story we all believed was complete is being brought back to life. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are reuniting, and the world is ready to step once again into the magic of Vivian and Edward. But before we talk about the sequel, let's take a look at how this love story first captured our hearts and why its legacy has never faded. When Pretty Woman first hit theaters in 1990, no one could have predicted it would become one of the most iconic romantic films of all time. Directed by Gary Marshall, the movie told the unconventional yet deeply emotional story of Vivian Ward, a Hollywood escort with a bright spirit and an unshakable sense of humor, played by Julia Roberts and Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman caught up in the cold world of power and money, portrayed by Richard Gere on the surface. These two characters lived in completely different worlds, but their meeting changed everything. What started as a transactional relationship slowly turned into something real, raw, and transformative. The film wasn't just about romance, it was about transformation, vulnerability, and the courage to believe in love against all odds. Vivian was more than just a character. She was a symbol of hope and independence. Julia Roberts brought her to life with such charm and honesty that she quickly became America's sweetheart. The role even earned Roberts a Golden Globe Award and an Academy Award nomination, cementing her status as one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses. On the other hand, Richard Gere's Edward broke the stereotype of the cold businessman. Instead of remaining detached, his character opened his heart and rediscovered a side of himself he thought was long gone. Their chemistry was the real magic. Every glance, every smile, every line exchanged between Roberts and Gere felt natural, as if these two characters truly belonged together. Their iconic moments, like the unforgettable scene with the jewelry box snapping shut or the grand gesture of Edward climbing up the fire escape to declare his love, became etched into pop culture history. These weren't just scenes in a movie. They were moments that shaped the definition of romance for an entire generation. But what made Pretty Woman stand apart wasn't just the story of love, it was how it made audiences feel. Viewers connected deeply with the idea that love could bloom in unexpected places, that people from different walks of life could find common ground, and that everyone deserved a happy ending, no matter their past. It was a modern fairy tale with a twist, one that didn't just rely on fantasy but grounded itself in the struggles and emotions of real people over the years. The movie's influence has only grown stronger. It's not just a film you watch once. It's a story that invites you to revisit it over and over. Each generation discovers it and falls in love all over again. From television parodies to Broadway adaptations, Pretty Woman has left a lasting mark on popular culture. Even now, quotes from the film are instantly recognizable, and its soundtrack, featuring Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman," is forever tied to the story of Vivian and Edward. The impact of the film also reshaped the romantic comedy genre. Before Pretty Woman, rom-coms often followed lighter, formulaic paths. But this movie combined humor with real drama, touching on themes of loneliness, class differences, and self-worth. It paved the way for future love stories that dared to blend comedy with emotional depth. And for Julia Roberts, this film was more than just a breakout. It was the role that transformed her into a global star more than 3 decades later. Fans still talk about the magic of Pretty Woman. They reminisce about the fashion, the witty lines, and the moments of vulnerability. That made the movie unforgettable. It wasn't just a story about love. It was about the belief that no matter who you are or where you come from, you are worthy of happiness. That message continues to resonate, making the return of Roberts and Gere even more powerful today as we step into the world of Pretty Woman. 2. We're not just watching another sequel. We're revisiting a legacy, a timeless love story that refuses to fade. And if the first film taught us anything, it's that some fairy tales are too powerful to stay in the past. The question everyone is asking is simple: why now? Why, after more than 30 years, are Julia Roberts and Richard Gere returning to the roles that defined an era? Hollywood has always loved revisiting classics, but Pretty Woman has always felt like a closed book its ending, wrapped in the perfect bow of a fire escape climb and a promise of love that defied the odds. For decades, fans dreamed of a continuation. But every time the rumor surfaced, the idea quietly faded away. Now, at a time when nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in entertainment, the stars have finally aligned for this long-awaited sequel. One reason for the revival is the undeniable cultural appetite for second chances in today's world. Audiences crave stories that bring comfort and familiarity while also offering fresh perspectives. Think about the recent wave of sequels and reboots that revisit beloved characters from the past. Movies like Top Gun, Maverick, and series like And Just Like That prove that there's an enormous demand for stories that connect generations. These projects don't just appeal to longtime fans, they also introduce iconic characters to younger audiences who never experienced the originals in theaters. Pretty Woman 2 fits right into this moment, offering both a nostalgic return for older fans and a brand new romance for younger ones to discover. Another powerful reason lies in the growth of its leading stars. Back in 1990, Julia Roberts was Hollywood's rising star, and Richard Gere was the charming leading man. Now, both actors have lived decades of their careers, maturing alongside the fans who loved them. Watching Roberts and Gere reunite isn't just about seeing Vivian and Edward again, it's about seeing how love and life evolve with time. Their story now has the chance to tackle themes of lasting commitment, the challenges of long relationships, and the beauty of rediscovering love at a different stage in life. This isn't just a sequel for the sake of nostalgia. It's a continuation that has the potential to feel authentic and meaningful on a broader level. Pretty Woman 2 also reflects the changing face of romance in modern cinema. Audiences today expect more depth, more complexity, and more realism from love stories. While the original film captured a fantasy-like fairy tale set against the streets of Los Angeles, the sequel can explore how fairy tales are tested by time, by personal growth, and by the complications of real life. Imagine Vivian and Edward navigating challenges not just as lovers, but perhaps as parents, business partners, or individuals struggling to balance love with ambition. In a world where relationships are often strained by outside pressures, the chance to see how their love survived, or perhaps was tested, brings new richness to their story. Timing also plays a role. For years, discussions about a sequel never seemed to gain traction, partly because both Roberts and Gere moved away from rom-coms into other genres. Julia Roberts chose dramatic roles that showcased her versatility, while Gere focused on more serious projects. But now, with Hollywood embracing big reunions and audiences craving heartwarming stories, the stage feels perfectly set. The entertainment industry is more open than ever to revisiting classics, and Roberts and Gere's return is not just a casting decision. It's an event. It's also worth noting how Pretty Woman as a brand has stayed alive over the years. The Broadway adaptation, which launched in 2018, reignited global interest in the story. Audiences who may never have seen the original film on the big screen were introduced to Vivian and Edward through live theater, proving that the love story still resonates. That cultural revival built momentum, reminding studios and fans alike that Pretty Woman is more than just a beloved movie. It's a timeless tale ready to be told again. And finally, there's the undeniable pull of the fans themselves. For decades, people have wondered what happened after Edward rescued Vivian right back. Did they stay together? Did they face obstacles, or did life pull them in different directions? The unanswered questions have lived in the hearts of fans, keeping the desire for closure alive. With Pretty Woman 2, audiences will finally get the chance to see how the fairy tale aged. Will the sequel deliver the happy ending we've always imagined, or will it surprise us with something more bittersweet and grounded? That curiosity alone makes this sequel not just timely, but necessary. In the end, the reason for Pretty Woman 2 coming now can be summed up in one word: relevance. The love story that began in 1990 is as relevant as ever. But now it has the chance to be retold for a new era, an era that values both nostalgia and authenticity. The timing isn't random. It's deliberate and it's powerful. After years of silence, the world is finally ready to see Vivian and Edward again, and perhaps discover that some fairy tales don't end when the credits roll. They evolve, they grow, and sometimes they return when we least expect it. Asterisk, the most exciting part of Pretty Woman 2 is not just that it exists, it's imagining where the story could possibly go after all these years. The first film gave us the perfect fairy tale ending, with Edward climbing that fire escape, flowers in hand, and Vivian realizing she was worthy of a love that went beyond money, power, and circumstance. But as every real-life romance teaches us, happily ever after is not the end, it's just the beginning. So what could this sequel explore? Let's dive into the most compelling possibilities. One storyline that feels natural is revisiting Vivian and Edward as a couple who have lived decades together. Did their love truly withstand the test of time? The sequel could explore the realities of building a life after a whirlwind romance. Perhaps we see them as partners who have faced the challenges of marriage, business, and family. Have they grown closer, or has the weight of responsibility created cracks in their perfect fairy tale? This angle could allow the film to explore deeper themes like long-term love, forgiveness, and the sacrifices couples make to keep their bond alive. Seeing Roberts and Gere play out these struggles would add emotional realism, showing us that even the strongest romances face storms. Another possible route is the introduction of a new generation. Imagine Vivian and Edward having a daughter, someone raised in privilege but still curious about the world beyond her parents' success. Her story could mirror Vivian's in unexpected ways, perhaps falling in love with someone her family wouldn't approve of, creating generational echoes of the original plot. This could allow Julia Roberts and Richard Gere to step into roles not just as lovers, but as parents navigating the complexities of guiding their child while facing their own relationship challenges. It would tie the past to the present, blending nostalgia with a fresh perspective. Alternatively, the sequel might explore what happened if their love didn't last. What if Vivian and Edward drifted apart after years of trying, only to reunite later in life? This approach could offer a bittersweet yet powerful twist. Maybe Vivian found her independence, building her own business empire, while Edward faced struggles that made him question everything. Their reunion could then become a story of second chances, a reminder that love doesn't always follow a straight path, and sometimes the most meaningful romances are the ones that return after years apart. This storyline could resonate strongly with audiences who know the realities of love and loss. There's also the possibility of shifting the focus toward the modern world. The original film thrived on the clash between wealth and poverty, privilege and survival. In today's world, that clash looks different. Maybe Edward's company faces scandals tied to modern business ethics, putting their family and relationship in the spotlight. Or perhaps Vivian, who once came from the streets, now uses her influence to help women in difficult circumstances, revisiting her own journey from survival to empowerment. This type of narrative would bring a socially conscious layer to the sequel, grounding the fairy tale in real world relevance. We can't forget about the potential for comedy and drama through new supporting characters. A business rival, a family member with a secret agenda, or even a friend from Vivian's past could complicate their lives in ways we never expected. What if Kit, Vivian's best friend from the original movie, reappears with her own story arc showing how life has treated her since those wild nights in Hollywood? Adding familiar yet evolved characters could create a mix of nostalgia and fresh intrigue. Another intriguing possibility is flipping the roles. In the original film, Edward was the one with power and control, while Vivian had to prove her worth in a world that dismissed her. In the sequel, what if Vivian is now the one thriving, confident, successful, and fully independent while Edward struggles with his place in a rapidly changing world? Watching their dynamic shift could give audiences something both refreshing and emotionally rich. After all, part of the magic of Pretty Woman was the way Vivian transformed Edward's view of life. Seeing her lead the way again could make for a powerful modern story, and then, Of course, there's the ultimate question: will the sequel keep the fairy tale alive, or will it ground the story in something more realistic? The original worked because it gave us a dream. The sequel has the opportunity to both honor that dream and update it for a new era. Perhaps the film will blend both, moments of magic, romance, and humor, balanced with real struggles that remind us that love is not always simple, but always worth fighting for, no matter which direction the story takes. The heart of Pretty Woman? Two will always come back to Vivian and Edward. Their connection, their growth, and their chemistry will define whether this sequel feels like a worthy continuation or just another revival. Fans are not looking for a copy of the original. They want a story that feels authentic to who these characters would be today. If done right, Pretty Woman 2 could be more than just a sequel. It could be a rare chance to see what happens when a fairy tale doesn't end, but evolves with the passage of time. There's something almost magical about the thought of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere sharing the screen again after more than 3 decades. Their reunion isn't just another casting decision, it's a moment that feels like the closing of a circle, a gift for audiences who have carried the memory of Pretty Woman in their hearts since 1990. The film world is full of talented actors and on-screen couples, but Roberts and Gere created a chemistry so natural, so unforced, that it transcended the story itself. Their reunion for Pretty Woman 2 is more than a nostalgic callback. It's an event that speaks to the power of love stories that refuse to fade with time. From the very first time Vivian and Edward locked eyes, audiences believed in them. It wasn't just about their looks or witty banter. It was the unspoken connection, the kind of bond you can't fake. Julia Roberts brought warmth, vulnerability, and a fiery spirit to Vivian, while Richard Gere balanced her energy with Edward's quiet strength, charm, and transformation. Together, they didn't just act, they lived those characters. And now, decades later, the promise of seeing them together again is stirring the same emotions that swept audiences off their feet all those years ago. What makes this reunion even more meaningful is how much both actors have grown since Pretty Woman. Julia Roberts became one of the most celebrated actresses in Hollywood, taking on roles that showcased her wide range, from the determined Leia in Erin Brockovich to the protective mother in Wonder. Richard Gere, meanwhile, leaned into more mature, dramatic roles, often exploring the struggles of aging, morality, and human connection. Watching these two return to Vivian and Edward after everything they've achieved makes their reunion feel richer, layered with real-life experiences that will no doubt add depth to their performances. There's also the emotional weight of nostalgia. Fans who saw Pretty Woman in theaters are now older, wiser, and perhaps more sentimental. To them, seeing Roberts and Gere together again is like revisiting a piece of their own youth. The characters they once fell in love with on-screen are aging alongside them, making this sequel deeply personal. It's not just about Vivian and Edward's journey, it's about our own, about how love and life evolve as the years pass. Younger audiences, on the other hand, get to experience the magic for the first time, discovering why this couple became legendary in the first place. Social media has already proven how much excitement this reunion has generated. The moment whispers of Roberts and Gere reuniting surfaced, fans flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with clips of their favorite scenes, quotes, and edits celebrating their love story. Hashtags like #PrettyWoman2 and #Roberts and Gere trended worldwide, with fans expressing how much the original movie meant to them and how eager they are to relive that spark. This kind of response shows that Pretty Woman 2 is not just another sequel, it's a cultural moment. The anticipation alone is enough to turn the reunion into one of the biggest cinematic events of the decade. What makes their return so unique is that their chemistry doesn't need to be recreated, it simply needs to be rediscovered. Some on-screen pairings fade over time, but Roberts and Gere's bond has proven timeless. Even during interviews years after the film, their warmth toward each other was undeniable. When they reunited briefly in public appearances, fans could feel that spark still alive. The sequel will give them the stage to bring that back, not as a copy of the past, but as a matured, evolved version of their connection. There's also the symbolic power of this reunion. In Hollywood, where many sequels and reboots feel forced, the return of Roberts and Gere feels natural, like a story waiting patiently to be told. They aren't just actors stepping back into roles. They're cultural icons revisiting a love story that defined a generation. Their reunion represents more than entertainment. It's a reminder that certain stories, certain loves, and certain moments in cinema are eternal. Of course, with such anticipation comes immense pressure. Fans will want the same spark, the same emotional magic they felt back in 1990. The challenge for Roberts and Gere will be to honor that memory while delivering something fresh, something that reflects who Vivian and Edward are today. But if there's any duo capable of rising to that challenge, it's them. Their performances in the original film weren't just about romance, they were about authenticity. That authenticity carried into the sequel will likely be the key to winning over audiences all over again. At its heart, this reunion reminds us why we go to the movies in the first place: to feel something real, to connect with characters who reflect our deepest desires and dreams. Julia Roberts and Richard